Hey guys, happy Monday again. It's another week. I feel like I just did the Friday post talking about how we made it to the weekend. And here we are already. The weekend has flown by and we're back into another week. Um, I just really have to start by saying how overwhelmed I am. It's been a really emotional weekend in a good way. I just can't say enough how much I appreciate the support and the you guys just getting on here and listening to our story and listening to what we have to say, well, we being me, about what all we've been through. And this is the first time that I've made the videos public so Michael can see them too. We were talking about it this weekend and he was kind of aggravated with me that I blocked him from them. So one by one, I'm opening them up to the public so he can go back and watch them, which I don't know why, it just makes me really nervous. So, I mean, I guess at some point he has to hear it too, right? So I was talking with him on Saturday night as we were driving out to a going away party about all of this. And what I said to him was, if I do this whole series and I open up this part of our lives that neither one of us have really ever shared with anybody before, and nothing ever comes from it and nobody learns anything and I'm not able to move forward with this, then it was all for naught. And I don't want this to just be a dump session on Facebook or just, a blog thing that gets done because it needs to get done. Like I want something to come from this so that I'm able to help other people. That was the whole reason for me being so open with all of this and being so honest with all of you into something that is probably one of the most personal things that's ever happened to us. And I mean, there's not a lot of people that know our full story. I haven't even really put it completely for you all because so much of the story is Michael's and it's his to tell, not mine. And so you're still only getting kind of half of it or a third of it. But even just that little bit has really opened some wounds for us and really opened a conversation that we have never had before. So Michael and I have been married 16 years this summer. And I don't know, however many years it's been since his first deployment was like, how long ago was that? 13 years ago. Up until this weekend, I had never talked to him about it before. Is that crazy? I don't know. I didn't even realize that I had never talked to him about it before. And it's emotional for me. And I sit and I say, like, I don't know why this is upsetting me so much. And it's like, because when you hold something in for that long, you kind of bury it. Hey, Sheena. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And then when you start talking about it, it's sort of this release. It's like you can finally get it out. You can finally start talking about something. And it's so therapeutic, and that's how this has been. That being said, it's also been amazing the contacts that I've had people reach out to me and the opportunities that have been provided to me, or the possible opportunities that are being provided to me to share this on a much bigger scale blows me away. And I can't wait to share that with you all if and when it comes to fruition. It's going to be really amazing for me to think that something that I've been so scared to talk about for so long is really going to blow up and become something that is able to help other families, which is just, I'm so excited about that possible opportunity. So I'm not saying anything about it until I know if it's all, what's going to happen with it and what the opportunities are. But it's very exciting for me, and I'm super proud to possibly be a part of something. So I'm not going to like cliffhang you or anything. It wasn't intentional, but anyways, so just kind of summarizing the whole series that I've done. Michael said to me in the car on Saturday, when he watched my first video, he got a little bit emotional about it. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that because he's such a big, tough guy. But it was, what made him emotional was that he had never heard me talk about it before. He's never heard my point of view or my perspective or how I felt about any of these deployments. I've never told him anything. I've never told him anything except that, yeah, it kind of sucked a bit. Like, I've never gone into detail about how it affected me before, during, and after any of the struggles emotionally or mentally that I had. He didn't even know how I found out. He didn't know how I found out about some of the deaths and some of the events that took place. We have never talked about it until Saturday. And when we started talking about it, we realized how crazy it is that we've never spoken to each other about these things. That I just shared with him on Saturday the emails that I got, the phone calls that I got, the phone calls that I made. Like, he never knew any of that. I have never shared any of that with him. And some of the stuff that he was telling me on Saturday were things that I never knew from his side of the story either. And it's like, how do you live with somebody for this long and have these events that we went through together, separately, but together, and we've never talked about it? Like, is that normal? I don't know. I don't know if that's normal. And so we started really talking about different things, and it was like, whoa, that's how you found out about that? Or I didn't realize that that's how that happened, and I didn't know that this happened on this particular day, and when that was going on, this is what was going on in my life. Like, it was just sort of this moment. I've gotten emotional every time I've done a video, but it's like, I felt so connected to him in that moment because I thought, you know what, this is stuff that we should have shared together a long time ago, because I would have understood much more why you were pulling away from us and why you were stepping away from your family in those moments. I would have understood, and I wouldn't have been so angry about them. And on the flip side, I think if he understood how things had affected me, then he would have realized that hiding these things and not talking about them with me wasn't helping us at all. Like, that's what he thought, was that by not talking about these things and by keeping them to himself and trying to deal with them on his own, that he was helping us. So we didn't have to hear about it and didn't have to deal with it. But what actually happened, I wish you would get off of this call. I just saw you join. I'm going to need you to go. I do not want you on this call right now. You'll have to go back and watch it later. So I'm going to need you, Michael Hester, to click off of this call and come back later. In trying to do things separately, what happened was there was this wall that was built, and it became like, I didn't want to ask any questions, and I didn't want to upset him or trigger him into like this withdrawal and these emotions, and so I just never asked. I never talked about it, and he never asked what it was like on our end. And like, thinking back on that, it's like, that is insane. Why we didn't come together in that moment? Why did we feel like we had to deal with these things separately instead of dealing with them together, when really these things dramatically impact our family? And so much turmoil and resentment and anger and loneliness and guilt and depression built up from the both of us. And it was geared towards things or places that weren't appropriate, like at each other. Do I have resentment that he was gone for a lot? Yeah, I do. Even though I know I was marrying a military guy, I knew what I was signing up for. It doesn't make it any easier to raise these kids on your own. So is there a little bit of resentment that can build up in those moments? Of course there is. And with him not knowing how I was feeling and me not knowing how he was feeling, it was like we were driving down the same road but in completely different lanes, different vehicles, on different days. And it's kind of hard to explain, because it wasn't that I wasn't supporting him. I can only support what I know. And so when you go through these combat deployments, they don't want to tell you everything. A, they don't want to rehash it. B, they don't want you to know what they're going through or what they went through. And see, I'm never going to understand. So it makes more sense for him to talk to the guys that were there with him or the guys that have gone through similar things than it does for him to talk to me about it. And I completely understand that side of it. However, when we both at that time were going through terrible things, very different, but very terrible things, really when he came back, we should have been better about talking about all of these things. Which is why I feel like it needs to be mandatory. There needs to be a program designed for the spouses. I feel like the month before the guys come home, or women, I'm not being sexist, before they come back, there needs to be a course for the spouses to understand what to look for, to understand what's going to be normal behavior and what is behavior that you might want to be concerned about. How do you take this person who's been gone for 6 to 7 months doing unimaginable things? You know, Michael was telling me a story of that he was in the bathroom and all these bombs were coming in. That's not normal living. You can't go from an environment like that to just coming home and me throwing the kids in your face and telling you I'm out to go get a pedicure. Like, so there needs to be a course designed on how to integrate back into your family life, and how are these spouses supposed to talk to each other, and what are okay questions to ask and what are things to stay away from. And on the flip side of that, I feel like the guys, I think I said this the other day, I'm going to say it again. Michael has a friend who is really involved in sort of this whole idea of when the guys come back. And one of the things that he said, and I thought it was great, and Michael said it again on Saturday, and I thought it's just so intuitive, is that when they come back, the weapons have to be cleaned. The clothes have to be cleaned. The bags have to be cleaned. Everything has to be back to what it was like before they left. Except nobody takes the time to clean the people coming back from the inside out. Nobody takes the time to therapeutically help them work through things that they've seen and done. And Michael's perspective was that all of this is kind of new, like the idea of like PTSD, the idea of somebody not being mentally okay when they come back, the idea of depression and all of these other things. They're kind of newly accepted in the military, and so there's not a lot of research into it. There's not a lot of resources for those things that are either available or that people know about. And so these are the programs that I really, really want to find a way to design and implement back into these lives. And one of the things that I said to Michael was, like when we were in Jacksonville for so long, the Key Wives Network is really big there, probably because it's a huge deployment base. And so you need that network. Well, since we've left Lejeune, we haven't really had that. And I feel like I'm out of the loop kind of with that whole thing. We haven't deployed in, I think the last deployment was like 2009, maybe. I think he's on here. He was a second ago, so he'll have to tell me if that's wrong. It's been a long time since he's had to go anywhere. I think that was the last one. That's terrible, right? I can't even remember. Anyhow, it doesn't really matter. So it's been a while since I've been in the loop. And so there may be more programs that are available now that I'm not even aware of, but I definitely think there needs to be something implemented. One of the questions that I got today was, why did I decide to start talking about this now? Like, why after all of this time have I decided to rehash through the last 6 days of doing this series? And I really didn't have an answer for that other than it's just time. It's time to move on, and it's time to start working through the things that we've been through as a couple, working through them as a couple. instead of trying to shield the other person, trying to protect the other person, because all it really does is hinder your relationship. It hinders your ability to express yourself, and it hinders their ability to empathize with you in the things that you're going through, which is what you came together for in the first place, was to be a team. And if you're trying to run a football play but only half of your team knows the play, the other half isn't going to be very successful in helping to fulfill that play. Is that a good analogy? I don't even know. One thing I remember my dad said to me one time when I was like learning to drive, and we were going through this, actually I think I was in college, but we were going through a really bad storm. Like the weather was really bad, and I was driving, and I was like white knuckled on the steering wheel, and I'm up against it because somehow I felt like I'd see better from here than I would from here. And so, you know, you're all up on the steering wheel. And my dad, I was like, can we just pull over? Can we just pull into the underpass? I can't even see where I'm going. And my dad said, it's more dangerous for you to pull over to the side of the road than it is to just keep going, than it is to just keep going just a little bit at a time. And he said, there's a storm, and the only way to get through the storm is to keep going. If you stay in the same spot, you're never going to get through the storm. And I guess that's what this comes down to, is like, I'm tired of being in the same spot. I don't want to end up rehashing every single year, going through the same emotions, the same, I don't want to say drama because that sounds so bad, but the same cycle of sadness and depression and triggers and anger and lashing out and living on pins and needles, waiting for that one thing that's going to like set that emotion off. I don't want to do that anymore. And that is the storm that has hovered over this house since the first deployment ended. There's just been a storm, and it lays low. It stays quiet and calm, but then there's little triggers that set this into action, and it can just spiral for months at a time, and then the storm settles. But it's still there. It's still there. That thunder is still rumbling in the background, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get in the freaking car, and I want to drive through the storm and get to the other side where, yes, there may forever be regrets. There may be things that for the rest of his life he's going to regret or want to change or would have done differently or could have or should have done differently. But you can't go back to those moments. All you can do is move forward and get through the storm and try to come out on the other side. And that's the process that we're in right now. And that's the process that I really wanted to share on Facebook, because I know there's other people living in this storm. I know there are other people. It may not be deployment related. It may be something completely different. But everybody has a storm. Everybody has something that they relive, that they rehash, that they can't let go of, that they struggle to forgive themselves for. And I just want you to know that all you have to do is get in the car and keep driving, keep pushing, keep working through it, and don't stop, and don't give up, and don't let the people around you deter you onto another road. You just plow through and you keep going, and eventually one day you're going to come out on the other side of that storm, and there's always a rainbow at the end of a storm. And I'm just hoping to get to that rainbow soon. So thank you so much for your support, for getting on over the last 6 days, for reaching out, for sending messages, just for watching the video. Even if you're watching in the background and you don't like or comment or anything else, it doesn't matter. I just hope that somebody has listened to this and has taken away from it something that they can do differently, something that I can help them work through. That's it. That's it. I'm not trying to blast anybody's business out there. I'm not trying to tell all of our lifelong secrets, but just get in the car, drive through the damn storm, come out on the other side, and enjoy the rainbow that there is. I hope you guys have a great Monday.